Although healthy bones are very strong and resilient, when force is applied to them, they may be broken, chipped or cracked, and we call these bone injuries fractures. This force can be direct when the point of injury is the same as the point of impact, or indirect when jarring through the body fractures a bone a long way from the point of impact. A heavy landing on the feet can cause a fracture of the spine, or even the base of the skull, by force transmitted up the legs in this way. Fractured collarbones can be caused in this way, the casualty falling onto their outstretched hand. It can be very difficult to be sure whether a casualty has fractured a bone, especially if they are unconscious. If you can establish a clear history of what's happened and where and how force was applied, it will help you to recognize whether a fracture is present and where it is. Fractured bones are often hidden inside the flesh, so-called closed fractures, but sometimes the force causes a wound at the fracture site or even pushes the bone out through the skin like this. These are open fractures, where there are problems of bleeding control and the risk of infection for you to deal with as well. In some cases, the fractured bone ends have been forced into an underlying organ or major blood vessel or nerve. This fracture is then complicated by the resulting problems that would arise. What would you say was the complication in this particular example? Well, the breathing is impaired here. This type of fracture is a very high priority for treatment. The treatment you give someone who has fractured a bone will also depend on how stable the bone is. In this example, although the bone is fractured, the limb is held in place because an adjacent bone is intact, and the broken bone ends are impacted together. This is a stable fracture. You'll need to think about the difficulties you'll have in recognizing this. In some cases, the bone ends are displaced, overlap, or are at an angle. These fractures are unstable, very evil having to go avoid trickling any complication. Outside normal pain, here are some examples of casual interrupted and how it might its cause may flow to the head or illness as stroke, episodes such as epileptic fits. Soon later, going to cause cases unconscious or no chance, and if there is none, give a command. Again, the response, and if none, give a gentle shake or pinch. It enables us to boost the level of response, either